Yo, what's up guys? Inco here with a new build video, and this is actually a Fire Reap Chieftain using the new Omniscience, however you say it, amulet. Just showing some footage here of a 67% more life Cortex with Void ailments. And this build has been very surprisingly strong. We're sitting at around 87 max res, around 30k armor unbuffed, and about 17k evasion. The build could definitely use some more chaos res or spell suppression. This is still the early version of it though, so as I craft and upgrade gear, we'll probably be incorporating those. At least a bit more chaos res. Spell suppression, there's not really a way for us to cap it realistically. We did start this character off as Exsanguinate, and the clear was there, the clear was great. The problem was the single target felt very lackluster. I actually did a cold Exsanguinate Occultist a couple leagues back on hit, and it was actually very strong, so we might revisit that one instead of doing this Chieftain version. But yeah, we were taking advantage of the new Melding of the Flesh Jewel to get our res up to 87 all res, and we are also using Crystallized Omniscience Amulet for a bunch of penetration, a bunch of resistances through stat stacking. I believe we're currently sitting around 1400, if I'm not mistaken. We're just showing some Sirus gameplay here, just cutting between the stages. And then we'll hop over to a map gameplay. I'll show you guys that. It could definitely use a bit more speed, but it's not like Omega slow. Very smooth to map with. It completely obliterates bosses. It's definitely very surprising. So yeah, I will leave you guys here with the rest of the Sirus gameplay, and then we'll hop over to some mapping footage of it and go over the gear, the links, talk about upgrades and stuff. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the Sirus, and I'll see you guys in a minute.
Everlasting fire.
Yikes. So we'll just hop over here, do a Phoenix map. This has more monster life. We'll do Maven. Possibly get Guardian's Aid. And then we'll just go over the gear. Talk about like upgrades and stuff to make. Pretty smooth mapping. It's not the fastest, but we are pretty beefy as a Chieftain using new Flesh of the Mending Jewel 2. We're around 87 all max res. That can be higher with some upgrades and that we'll talk about. The gear is still pretty fresh. Definitely some upgrades to be made. If you want to go for a more like soft core approach, you can get millions of more damage pretty easily. Because right now we're, in Grace and Determination, Defiant Spanner, all that good stuff. Basically aura stacking in a sense on this build. Well, no Guardian's Aid, but... Oh, wait, there is. Sorry. I didn't see you, dude. Alright, well, there you go. It's them dead. So... the gear, we'll just go over here. You want to be using a Secrets of Suffering Alternating Scepter. This one's pretty okay. You can obviously get a lot more damage here. You're looking for +1 Fizz. Cast speed is always very nice. And then crit chance. If you Aisling craft this for a 4-second cooldown, it'll be a lot better. We'll talk about the gems later. You want a Skin of the Loyal. Any one that's going to increase, so either +2 AoE, +2 duration, or +1 empower. +1 socketed gems implicit will be the best marginally because it'll also give +1 to your other supports. Black Sun Crest. You want this anointed. This enchant does nothing. You want to either have Assassin's Mark Curse effect, max blood charges, reap damage, or Righteous Fire spell damage. Assassin's Mark being the most single target. The other ones are kind of just global. don't even know if I had Righteous Fire on that map. I really don't remember. Anyway, the whole build's focused around Crystallized Omniscience, however you want to say it. We're using Doomcast on here. You want to have this on the highest percent, so 25% is the best. If you're at 15%, you have to have a lot more Omniscience to gear and gems. Currently, we're at about 1400. Our shield, you're just looking for same thing, +1 fizz, spell damage, physical, fire damage, any of those. Crit. Ideally here you would have like stats or chaos res, because chaos res would be really nice. I still have to recraft some of this gear. Life, generic stuff like that. Ring's pretty bad. I actually have to recraft this. This just has some resists and from the old version of this build when it was actually using the other amulet. Circle of Anguish with buff effect and max fire res. We're using Eldritch Crafted Gloves with fire exposure and unnerve enemies. Just some stats, life, regen life here, and increased damage while leeching, which we're always leeching. Some strength, attributes, regen life again, so we can just easily perma-sustain and use our blessing aura and stuff. Also needs recrafted, it's pretty mediocre. And then just chaos crafted increased damage. Boots are triple attribute. I think I'm probably going to get some spell suppression on my gear. Definitely more chaos res, ideally. Max fire res here, which can be +2, and an enduring cry CDR. And that's the gear. We'll go over the sockets. So we're using trigger and the weapon with life tap, immortal call, and divergent purifying flame. Gives extra damage to enemies on the consecrated ground. And this is also how we proc our Ascendancy node here, where you get 15% more damage if you've lost an endurance charge in the past 8 seconds. So we're always having endurance charges, and then we use the weapon to trigger immortal call. Gotta wait for it because I just cast it, and then we have the more damage there. So that's that setup, and then Purifying Flame to get Consecrated Ground, make them take more damage because we're using Zealotry. And we have a Watcher's Eye with cast speed and crit chance against enemies while on Consecrated Ground. I bought this for 80C, so that is very nice. And then we have Herald of Ash, Determination, Enlighten, and Grace. Obviously, if you get an Enlighten 4 here, a lot more freedom of mana, but they're like dumb priced right now. Just Flame Dash, Arcane Surge to get Arcane Surge, Flame Dash. Our Enduring Cry. Our main links, we have Anomalous Reap, which is the crit one. This is still just level 20. Actually, a level 21 Reap here gives us easily 1 million more damage, believe it or not. So I'm currently trying to get one of those, leveling ones on swap and corrupting them. We have a 2020 increased crit. We have a 2020 anomalous increased crit damage, some extra crit chance from the alt quality. We have a Awaken Unleash right here. Awaken Spell Cascade for the big overlaps of Reap. And then we have an Empower 4. In our gloves, we have our Defiance banner. We're using Life Tap, Divine Blessing, and Zealotry. That's how we get our Zealotry on us. Press the wrong button there. And then we have Vitality with Arrogance. We have Anomalous Assassin's Mark, which we self-cast on the bosses. And Divergent Righteous Fire. Obviously, Divergent Fall Righteous Fire would give us a lot more single target to pop on bosses. Don't have one currently. And you definitely want to use Awaken Spell Cascade. Both of these are like really cheap right now. Awaken Unleash. Off the quality in that. We're talking like 70C at this time. Awaken Spell Cascade. We're talking 25C. So these are both dirt cheap for the Awaken Gems, and that's the only Awaken Gems in the build. And you definitely want the Spell Cascade, because that's how you get the big overlap here. And you make Reap hit multiple times. It does a ton of damage with the Unleash. And then as far as our tree, We do have an Unnatural Instinct over here to give us some nice extra cast speed, life, fizz damage, regen, AoE. Just very nice overall. We have a Fizz Mastery here for 40% increased Fizz damage with skills that cost life. Obviously, Reap costs life, so that's just 40% increased Fizz damage. We have both of the Reservation Clusters, so we have Champion of the Cause here, and we're taking the Mana Reservation Efficiency here. And then up here on this one, we are taking increased damage for each of your Aura or Herald skills affecting you. For as jewels, we are using Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh to get Unbreakable from the Juggernaut Ascendancy to make us even more tanky. And then we are also Melding of the Flesh, obviously, using a Burning Bright, Smoking Remains, Widespread Destruction jewel. Obviously, all these jewels in that too, getting more damage, more stats is more damage. So that's something to be mindful of. And then we're using 2 Pressure Points Quick Getaway jewels for extra crit and chance to deal double damage. And then just a Fire Damage, Crit Multi, Life jewel here. In the Watcher's Eye, the Cast Speed Zealotry and crit chance for enemies on consecrated ground. And that's the other Forbidden Flame. And as far as upgrades, I do think you want more Chaos Res. Would definitely make the build feel really nice. I actually spec'd out of the Endurance charges because, like, even without us getting advantage of this, where you also get a bunch of life regen, and the same thing with the Chieftain node. So we're also immune to Ignite here. You get a bunch of recovery. And extra Endurance charge here. We're gaining Endurance charge from our Enduring Cry. Even if there's no enemies in the area, it acts as like an Enduring Composure small cluster in a sense. So that helps us always proccing to get the more damage. But yeah, unbuffed, we are currently sitting at 23k armor and 14k evasion. And like if we pop our flasks, we're already up to 36k. That's without the buffs from the Ascendancy. And that on top of that, you can also use an evasion flask to further boost your evasion rating to make you even more tanky. Oh, and we're also, like I said, 87 max res, and you can get that higher with +2 on boots here. And I don't really think it's needed. But yeah, you can obviously add a lot more damage to this build. We're more on the tanky side for sure. The character feels very smooth to play. There's still some improvements that I want to make to the build. I just wanted to get a build get out on it. Obviously, like I said, getting a 21 Anomalous Reap, no joke, adds over 1 million damage. Same thing if you use a Bottle of Faith. Once again, over 1 million damage. Assassin's Mark Curse Effect is the most damage, but that's more single target focused. You could use Reap damage, Maximum Blood Charge, or Righteous Fire spell damage. Divergent Righteous Fire, Divergent Ball Righteous Fire would give you a lot more single target damage too on bosses when you pop it. And just better crafted gear overall. So, build's still pretty early on. I need to roll that flask, jeez. Still have to upgrade a bunch of stuff, but I'm very surprised with the build's damage, how it plays. We started this character as a Exsanguinate, and it felt good clearing, but the single target was very bad. And we ended up trying Reap, and immediately the switch, the single target damage was insane. So yeah, that does it for this character currently. I am very surprised by it. There will be an update video on it soon, making upgrades to it, getting more damage, more defense, fine-tuning stuff. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoy, and take care.